We're in border country, about 2 or 3 miles down a forest track, and we have a new companion with us today. If I come to our new companion first for introductions. Name please?
Aled Williams.
Hi Aled. And you've come down from Porthmadog this morning, haven't you?
I have indeed.
Yeah,
it's a new part of the country for me.
Yeah, we've been communicating with Aled for a year or so, haven't we? So
yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Various things.
And he's young and fit, so that's good for carrying all the weight.
Yeah, got a lot of carrying to do and quite a lot of menial tasks, I should imagine, as well.
That sounds good. Head of sandwiches.
Yes, yes.
Well, let's go over here. I've already pre-warned that I'm not going to get much communication from these two today. So we had, there's a head of machete.
My big chopper with me.
So where are we, John? And the purpose of our visit?
We're going to look at a hill called...
Is it Shadwell Hill?
Shadwell Hill. And on the map it's 498 metres, so it could qualify as a Dewey if we can make it 500 metres. So we're going to go and find the summit and measure its height.
But it's embedded in forestry, isn't it?
Embedded in thick forest, so it's going to be interesting.
Yep, good. And Graham, any comments?
Not really too many, Merlin. You promised me that the trees were well spaced. I can see that they've probably got about a nanometre between them. Thanks very much for that. I look forward to it.
So,
and I haven't got a chopper.
Okay, cheers guys. Do a bit of filming later on. Thank you. So I'll just give you a look into the forestry. This is where we're heading to a spot height on the 1 to 25,000 map of 498 metres. So it looks pretty dense from here, and here's the continuation of the track. Fire ahead, John.
Well, we've reached what may be the summit of this particular hill. We're stuck in trees here. We've come from a track about 40-50 metres to the west. Tackled our way through quite thick undergrowth and trees to get here, so the first real open space. Looking further to the east, the ground seems to go down, but whether it goes up again or not, we have no idea. The trees are probably too high to do a decent GPS survey, because we're not going to get the 15 degrees we require for the satellites. So we're up a bit of a gum tree here, really. So we're trying to think what to do. Probably go and do something else.
Well, it's probably a spruce tree, actually.
The upper spruce tree.
Upper spruce tree.
Well, so far we haven't failed on a survey, have we? So
well, it's always a first.
Let's.
We're mounties. We always get our hill.
Let's go to Aled.
It's not encouraging.
So, any thoughts, guys? What?
Yeah. What am I doing here, basically? I think it's,
Yeah, I mean, after quite a lot of effort to get here, it's a bit disappointing that we're not going to be able to survey this one. But it really does look quite hopeless, doesn't it?
well, I agree. It looks pretty hopeless. I think my vote is that we recheck the map for the 498 metre spot height, and assuming that it takes us back in this vicinity, which it should do, we set up the GPS here and we accept the higher degree of error that it's going to give us. We collect some data.
And we have had a brief discussion about the error, if we did set it up here. And what was your conclusion with that, Graham?
Well, it's based on work that I've done in my own back garden, where there's sycamore trees and the house, and so it does obstruct the view, and you do get interference from those. And what happens is sort of, 9 times out of 10 you get a decent result, and then on the 10th time you get something that's about 0.2 of a metre out. So we're not talking about metres, we're talking about tenths of a metre. Normally we'd expect to get an accuracy of, the measurement itself to within about 5 centimetres. that's clearly not going to happen here. But I think we probably stand a chance of getting, if we can say we can estimate the summit to within 0.3, 0.4 of a metre, that's probably going to be of the order of magnitude of the error.
Which would be very interesting if, again, spot height on 1 to 25,000, 498.
Yeah, I mean, if we come out with an answer of, 497, 498, 499, we know it's not made it. If it comes out of an answer of, 499.9 or 500.1, we're going to be a bit suspicious of the result. That's the only thing. But we've been in that position before. My vote is we're here now. We try and collect some data and see what it gives us.
Yeah, sounds good. Aled, you on for that?
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah? Well,
But
excellent.
we do have to accept that it's not ideal.
Yeah.
I mean, if it is over, if it's 501 metres, then
If it was 501, then
It's not too bad, is it?
You'd accept that result.
Mm.
It's where you start getting something that's in the sort of 499.8, 499.9,
0.1 or
that sort
2
of-
centimetres.
and you
yeah.
think, well, that's within the measurement error we're likely to be getting. And we only have those measurements that I've made to give us an idea of what the measurement error might actually be. It's certainly going to be of that order, but when we normally take measurements, we've got good hard statistical data from what we've done before in John's back garden with many measurements. We know what the accuracies are from our own measurements, as well as those that you can get from companies like Leica and the Ordnance Survey. In this situation, you can't. You're more on your own.
Well, I'm going to just pan over. So, cheers, guys. Thank you. Just give you a feel for the general surroundings. John's gone off in the direction that we've come from. You may be able to see him. There he is. And there is a clearing here, but I'm going to try to bash my way through, just to give you a little feeling of what's here. I haven't got a clue where I'm putting my feet, so I'm apt to take a bit of a dive into the moss and the twigs. Here he is. He's Chief Surveyor.
I've just been checking with the ABNY level.
Yeah.
If we were to set up the GPS here, what the angle to clear the trees, and that side from the ground, from my height anyway, is 30 degrees, and that side is 40 degrees. So I would guess those trees are what, 8-10 metres high?
Yeah.
So on a 3 metre pole would probably be only around about 25 degrees, so it won't be too bad.
That's not too bad, is
Not
it?
too bad.
Because what's the
Yeah.
degree angle that you normally look for,
15
John?
degrees.
Yeah.
So I reckon we'd be about 25 on a 3 metre pole in the centre there, a bit over to the right, so we're further away from this side of the hedge.
But of course, the other thing is that it isn't guaranteed that this is the highest point, is
No,
it?
But I suppose if it turned out to be higher than 500, we wouldn't care.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting exercise. So it's back to the car, get all the clobber.
If we agree to set the GPS up here and give it a whirl,
Yeah,
then yes.
Yeah?
Just bring the GPS.
that sounds good.
All right.
I just found a small embedded cairn actually with a little. There was a
Right
little,
here?
the little bit of paper saying this is the summit on it.
Which you wrote.
Okay. Cheers, John. Anyway, so and there's Alan and Graham, and do a little bit more filming in a few minutes when we've passed through the trees for another 10. We're up on the summit area where we put the GPS. You'll be able to see that in the background soon. So Alad's here with us. So first experience, Alad, of coming out on a survey. What are your impressions?
It's very interesting. It reinforces, how much work goes into these surveys, especially when you're working in such hard terrains, such as a forest environment, or even if you're an open moorland. It's pretty tough to stay out here for a couple of hours collecting data. So it's harder work than I thought it was, to be honest.
But we've had a bit of fun, haven't we? Scouting around inside the forestry.
Indeed, we have. Yes, it's been very difficult to try and ascertain where the actual summit was, and this is an obvious point because it was cleared, and we presumed that the summit would be roughly in the middle here, but we also found dips and rises further on inside the actual forest, and so it was very difficult to try and ascertain where exactly the summit was.
So, well, cheers, Aled. I'll come over to John and Graham. Everybody looks very sort of clean and healthy now, because I know when I arrived here I was just full of pine needles. So, well, cheers, Aled. May come back to you in a minute. Let's go and see Graham. And if I just... hi, Graham. You can just see the GPS. If I just go up a little bit, Graham, sorry about this.
You was looking at the pine needles in my hair, I think. I'm having a bad hair day.
Well, we've got it on an extended 3-metre pole today, haven't we?
Yes, we have. As you've panned around with the camera, the viewers will have seen that we've got some tall trees here. So what we've tried to do is give the antenna the best chance possible to be able to see the satellites and reduce any interference from the trees by putting it on a 3-metre pole, which is the longest pole that we've got really with us to deal with this situation. And when we process the data, we can also change the takeoff angle so that if we are getting any interference from satellites that are lower in the sky, we can remove those in the software. So yeah, that's why we've got it on the 3-metre pole.
Now, I know where Aled ended up in the forestry before we set the GPS up. That is another potential high point, isn't it?
Potentially, where we've navigated to here is in the region of the 497 metre spot height on the 1 to 50k map, and just behind you by about 30-40 metres is the spot height on the 1 to 25k map, which is marked as 498. Now, when you walk between the 2 points, it's very, very difficult to form a view as to whether there's higher ground or not. It certainly dips from here, but how much it rises is very difficult to tell, and there's no way in this terrain that you can line survey. Once you go out of this clearing, you really are in thick tree cover. So the only option to us really was to set the GPS up here and see what sort of result we get, and that will hopefully be sufficiently clear cut to tell us whether this hill is or isn't a Dewey. But the error is going to be quite large.
Well, cheers, John. Graham. If I come over to Graham.
John.
I'm Graham over here.
Hi, John. Yeah, Graham mentioned the sort of error factor, John.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
I think is when you look at the ground that we're actually sitting on here. I mean, it's full of drainage channels, obviously, for the forestry. And they've humped up the soil, so it's like trenches. So there's probably estimating something like plus or minus half a metre of error just in the roughness of the terrain that's around here. And you were talking earlier about looking at the region over there. I independently came up from the east, which is in that direction behind me, from the path there. And I think there's no doubt that the summit of the hill is not down there. It was a gradual rise all the way up to this point, and certainly on that side and that side it's dropping away. So it's only if there's any doubt about where the summit area is, it'll be to the west. It won't be in any of those other directions. But I think having wandered around, we've probably got the best compromise we can have by putting the GPS in this position.
Because initially we came up here to do a recce, didn't we? And then head back to the car to get the equipment. And when we came back again, we approached this point of the summit area from four different directions.
Yeah.
So we had a good old tree bash coming in. And so how many hours worth of data, John, today?
An hour of data.
Yeah.
A few minutes to go yet,
yeah.
That should be good. I mean, in fact, when you look at the display on there, we've actually got a good selection of satellites for most of the time. We've seen at least 7. Even if we take into account the trees, so they've been at good angles today. Yeah.
Now, one thing that you did do before we set up the equipment was look with the ADNI as far as the angle was concerned, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 35 degrees from the ground this side and about 25 on this side, and we go for 15 for the cut-off angle for normal GPS procedure.
And a little bit of that is going to be negated by the 3-metre pole?
3-metre pole, so obviously it's going to be less than what I said. Yeah.
And now, my recollection is the first time that it's been on a 3-metre with a static tripod.
Only at home, but yes, that's true.
Yeah. So, it's a little first, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, cheers, everybody. And I'm going to go back and give a general view of the GPS, if I can. John's doing the shoelaces up, so you've got Graham and Aled. So, here's the kind of environment. There's a whole heap of brambles behind me, but that's down a little hollow. So that's where the GPS is in relation to this clearing, and this is the one major clearing that's on the summit area. So I'll just backtrack and I'll leave you with a view of the GPS.
These are the survey results for Shadwell Hill, which is a prospective Dewey that we surveyed just 2 days ago. The 1 to 50,000 map has a 497 metre spot height, and the 1 to 25k map has a 498 metre spot height, so it's quite close to the 500 metre boundary. The result that we got by placing the GPS in a clearing which approximated to the position of the 497 metre spot height was 496.9 metres, so very close indeed to the map value. We did explore further into the forest to look for the area in the proximity of the 498 metre spot height, and we couldn't find any higher ground, but the thickness of the trees prevented us doing a proper survey in that area. But there was certainly no ground that was rising significantly from the point where we took the GPS measurements, so we're confident that Shadwell Hill will not make it onto the list of Deweys.